I had two questions to ask. Is there any difference between the way of praying namaz between men and women?
That's the first question.
Yeah, and the second one is, I've heard that there is Shafi Imam and Hanafi and all that, but I want to know that which is the right one to follow as a new Muslim.
To be honest, Jazakumullah khair, the first question is there any difference between the salah of a male and a female? If you take a look at the scholars of jurisprudence, there is a difference of opinion between the Hanafi scholars and the rest of the scholars in this regard. So whilst the Hanafi scholars do say that there are some differences between a man and a woman's salah, the rest of the scholars say that there is no difference because it's not proven with authentic ahadith. And as we've said, these scholars of jurisprudence have all proven their points with various ahadith and so on. The confusing factor is what should a person do if, say, I've accepted Islam, and what school of thought do I follow? That's a very important question. What I've found to be the most practical answer is where you are and those who've actually assisted you in accepting Islam and so on, the entire environment. Not every place would be similar to Dubai here, where you can actually affiliate to an institution of this nature that would probably teach you what is closest to the Quran and the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have different countries, and I know that we face this challenge in so many countries where you've accepted Islam and everyone around you happens to follow the madhab of Imam Shafi'i. So when it comes to beliefs, everyone is one. Belief will not differ. But when it comes to matters of jurisprudence, a person says Ameen aloud, a person says it softly, a person ties their hands on the chest and someone else ties it on their belly, and someone else might raise their hands and someone may not. Matters of jurisprudence are not as important as matters of faith and belief. So it's important for us to know that in belief we don't differ. But when it comes to matters of jurisprudence, the four schools of thought are widely accepted by the entire ummah. So we would be wrong to discount a school of thought based on the fact that, you know what, it's not the school of thought that I follow. When it comes to jurisprudence, I hope you're following the answer that I'm giving. And at the same time, what we need to know is perhaps those who are around us, it would be most practical for us to learn jurisprudence similar to what they have. That there are many differences of opinion across the globe. It does not remove us from the fold of Islam as such if the jurisprudence is different, and if, for example, we are following one of the four schools that are there. It does not remove us from the fold of Islam, but some people actually use the opportunity to chisel through these differences in a way that they want to split the entire ummah. I'd like to hope that belief-wise we should be all the same. We should be all acknowledging what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, and inshallah in that front without disagreement.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام الأتمان الأكملان على خير خلق الله أجمعين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد. All praise is due to Allah. We ask Allah to exalt the mention, grant peace and send His blessings upon the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The schools of thought in Islam, where do we stand? We have with us our beloved Dr. MAMDOUH Muhammad. Welcome, Doctor. Sheikh ASSIM al-HAKEEM and Sheikh Abdurrahim McCarthy. And we were discussing in a previous episode the issue of fatwa shopping. I don't know if you went shopping since, but can you elaborate more on fatwa shopping? What does shopping have to do with fatwa, and how did these two come together in one word?
So the fatwa shopping, which is when we say we want the people to explore, the danger is that when some people do now, is they find the fatwa shopping. You mentioned the example in the last episode of smoking. So somebody wants to smoke, he's going to try to find, even though probably now there's really nobody who says it's halal. Even the ones who said it was makruh at first, now they know it causes cancer, it kills you, they now say it's haram. So you're rarely going to find any modern day scholar who would say it's makruh. So he might look for those old fatwas when it first came into the Islamic world that it's makruh, so he can keep smoking. It's not really haram.
The funny thing is that you'll find scholars who would say, who smoke themselves, and they say, listen, if it's haram, we're burning it. If it's halal, we're smoking it. So they play with words. Go ahead.
Exactly. So this is the danger. We're talking about fatwa shopping. So people are actually, when we mean shopping, just like when you go shopping, you want to buy what you want. You go to the grocery store, you choose your product. You go to buy furniture, you choose the couch you want, the bedroom set you want. So the people are looking for a fatwa that suits them. And obviously there's going to be a lot of things that are not correct when they follow this. This is the danger of this. So what is the relationship with this to following the madhahib, or the schools of thought? Is a lot of people are going to say that it's actually better. Somebody just follows a school of thought and relaxes. Because when you open up the door to look for what's more authentic, he could actually fall into dalala, fall into that which is astray. So it's better for him just to follow one of these great imams, Imam Malik, Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad. Isn't it safer?
Well, the lesson, I guess, would be then the sincerity of the believer. Everything seems to revolve around the person.
The core of the matter.
Yeah, you can go fatwa shopping. I think in Arabic they call it tatabbu' al-rukhas. It's like people always looking for the concession. So, you know, if he doesn't agree with something, say, yeah, but this imam said it's okay, and I need it now, so I'll just act upon it. But if the person is sincere, they fear Allah, then I guess they will not be able to deal with it in this manner.
Yeah, and this is something very important that we should develop and raise our kids and the Muslims to that. Do you want to please yourself or do you want to please Allah? Do you want to be sincere for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you want to please yourself and to please your hawa and to please your nafs and to please the other people? If the Muslim is trained on this, I think we will have less problems in the future, inshallah. So I would never go shopping for a fatwa. I would ask the scholar, I would be very sincere in looking for a person, yes, to give me the fatwa that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to please myself.
Well, I'm still waiting for the evidence, someone to cite an evidence from the Quran as why is it that we, you know, whenever we have all these people presenting their opinions and there's a conflict, there's one individual whom we are supposed to follow blindly. Can we say that?
It's true, but if I may comment a little bit further on the issue of fatwa shopping. The problem is not with the students of knowledge, because who you're talking about with the intention are the students of knowledge. The problem is with the majority of the Muslims who are the laymen, who do pick what suits them. So they go to the four schools of thought and they become selective. And they should not, because like Sheikh Abdurrahim said, if a person does not have the ability to select or to know, to verify which is authentic and which is not, then it's the safest thing for him is to follow one madhab. But when that person becomes selective in the sense that he says, listen, now marriage, I know it requires the approval of the guardian, it requires giving a dowry, it requires at least the presence of 2 witnesses. So if I meet someone at the university and I like her, she likes me, and I said, listen, according to Abu Hanifa, I don't have to seek your guardian's approval, and you can marry yourself. And according to one of the madhabs of Imam Shafi'i, the presence of 2 witnesses is not required. And according in one saying or opinion in madhab Imam Malik, dowry is not an issue. So how about it? She says,
Start tonight, right?
Yep.
Right there.
And we can tango. So is this okay? Definitely not. This is manipulating, this is distorting Allah's religion. Allah Azza wa Jal, in the midst of all of these difference of opinions, gave us a strict and clear evidence. Allah says, whenever there's dispute, refer it back to Allah and His Messenger, meaning refer it back to the Quran and to the Sunnah. So this is the line that clears all dispute and is the line that we're supposed to follow.
So it's more like we're supposed to submit to Allah through Islam, and it's like some people may want to make Islam submit to their choices.
True.
So they're actually twisting around the very essence of the religion. The 4 madhahib, I remember you mentioned before in the previous episode, they're Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Now, my understanding is that the 4 madhahib are primarily dealing with fiqh issues, jurisprudence. Now, how do we understand this in the light of Aqidah? As in, could someone be a blind follower of one of the 4 madhahib, yet not have the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah? Or once someone follows one of these imams, then by default, he is upon the Aqidah? Or is there a variation between these 2?
Because I am a student of knowledge, I will take it to a higher level to Sheikh McCarthy to answer this question.
Be our guest.
This question is very important, actually, what you mentioned. And this is something that always troubled me. I can't believe it when I travel around the Islamic world that you'll find somebody, and because these 4 imams, they didn't just go into issues of jurisprudence only. They went in depth into the Aqidah. And you see the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, it's the Aqidah of these imams as well. Their beliefs. And there's no any 1 or 2 slight differences maybe that they might have had on one issue with Abu Hanifa. Other than that, the issue of Iman, which is a small issue.
It's rhetorical. It's not actually when you come to...
No. So there's no really, if you look at, there's no difference of opinion between them in the belief. Yet you'll find Muslims who have the audacity today to say, I'm a Maliki. I'm a Shafi'i, but they don't follow the Aqidah. They don't follow the belief of these Imams, which is, it sounds kind of crazy. And when you go to the fiqh, they're really into it and they won't go away from it. I mean, I found one guy to the extent that he told me, the issue we talked about in the first episode about the water, and we showed him, all of the scholars said these hadiths are not authentic. And he said, I will follow the madhab of Malik, even if it goes against the hadith. And I was like, wow, you know, I said this hadith. And we clearly showed it to him. He's a guy who studied Arabic and he studied the fiqh and he knew. But he said, I will not leave the madhab. But when it came to the issues of Aqidah, he said, I'm Ash'ari. I'm not on the, he said, I don't follow the Aqidah of Imam Malik. So I was like, you know, who is more knowledgeable in this issue?
So that's a fatwa shopper.
Exactly.
In a
goes back to
in
it.
a sense.
And then he says, my methodology in spiritualism is this tariqah or this way of this and that. So they follow all, it's now become like 3 in 1.
SubhanAllah.
They've made a little trinity, right? When the khair is there.
We're running away from Trinity.
But the reality is there. When you, I mean, who is better? Imam Malik or somebody else who came after him? They're the ones who know the Aqidah. They're the ones who know the correct Aqidah. So all of them had the same belief. And it's something very troubling how somebody can run away from that belief.
Sheikh ASSIM, we want standardized answer for any individual who may push the following of one madhab blindly while excluding and ignoring everything else. What can we say to any person who says, no, you must follow the madhab or the opinion of Imam Ahmad rahimahullah or Imam Shafi rahimahullah or Malik or Imam Abu Hanifa? What is that one answer that we can say to all of them which, if they were sincere, would satisfy them?
Simply to go back to the sources, to the fundamentals of any proper Muslim. Ask any individual, Akhi, who are you following? The Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ or XYZ? Usually they will come with the argument of, okay, isn't Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal following the Quran and Sunnah?
Right.
So I'm following him. So no, actually you're following his understanding. But Allah Azza wa Jal tells you in black and white in the Quran, وَيَوْمَ يُنَادِيهِمْ فَيَقُولُ مَاذَا أَجَبْتُمُ الْمُرْسَلِينَ? The question that you'll be asked on the Day of Judgment, what did you respond to the messenger who came to you, the Prophet ﷺ? You're not going to be asked, what did Imam Malik or his students say, or what did Imam Hanifa and his two students say? You will be asked about your response to the Prophet ﷺ. And this is the question you're going to be asked in your grave. What did you do with what you knew? What did you do with following the Prophet ﷺ? Who is your Lord? Who is your Prophet? And what is your religion?
But also I see one of the problems here is following the one's own desire, and this is that makes people go and buy fatwa films. To the degree that the Quran said something about this, that says that أَرَأَيْتَ مَنِ اتَّخَذَ إِلَهَهُ هَوَاهُ فَأَضَلَّهُ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ. So here the people, the verse means that some people take their desires and whims and make them their own gods because they follow their desires instead of following what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. And this is the essence of Islam, is to submit your desires, to submit yourself to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says.
Islam, it's Islam,
this is
submitting, right?
As you mentioned it's not vice versa. It's not submitting Islam to your desires. So this is a very important concept, and I think we need to find a good title for it, like shopping for fatwas. We need to, it's not submitting yourself to Allah, not submitting the religion to yourself.
Right. Okay, well, I guess that will be something we could discuss after the break, in fact. And perhaps we can also deal with the issue of, for example, we can say to the person that your imam, who you're following blindly, who was he following? And if his objective was to lead you to the Prophet ﷺ, but do you say he did it 100% or did he fail sometimes? If you agree he wasn't ma'soom, he failed, therefore if you find another path, you should just go by the path. Maybe we can elaborate on that after the break, inshallah. The weather is nice, but the discussion is hot. We were dealing with the issue of kind of coming up with a slogan or a new expression as to the nature of the slave in Islam. What does he do, and what is his role, and does he make the religion submit to him, or does he submit to the religion? And we were going to discuss, we said, also a standard answer which we can give in regards to those who are overly attached to the one opinion of the imam. And so perhaps you can begin, Brother McCarthy, on this issue.
Inshallah, Before we go into that, I think we need to discuss a very important issue. It's interesting how many topics come up about this. It's a very interesting topic about the schools of thought, and there's so much to talk about. But we need to focus on finding the cure for a problem that we have in the Ummah today. And that is that we have basically two extremes. The true students of knowledge, they're always in the middle. And the correct path in Islam, wherever you look at anything, it's always in the middle. And we have some Muslims, even some who might be students of knowledge, who absolutely blind follow the madhab. Like we mentioned, the guy who said, I don't care about the hadith, I'm going to follow what I was taught in my madhab. And they don't care. And then you have another extreme, which actually has a form of hatred almost, if not a serious hatred for the imams.
Yeah, I've come across a lot of that.
You've seen
It's
this.
very strange.
And they actually look at the person who follows one of the imams as being like a mubtadi', as being someone who's an innovator in their religion. This is serious. So we have these two extremes. I think we need to talk about these. This is because we want to solve this problem. We want the ummah to come to the middle path on this.
Right.
This is a very important topic. Because now, when you look at the major scholars of Islam who studied, let's look at, for example, Imam Nawawi, Imam Ibn Hajar, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah. Did any of them come up not studying a madhab?
Initially, they must have had a madhab.
All of them initially had it. So this was the proper methodology and being a student of knowledge. They studied these madhabs, all of them. You're not going to find Imam Ibn Abdul Barr, major scholars of Islam. They studied the madhab. And
Do you
Then
say
they
that
left the
one
madhab?
madhab or different
No,
madhab?
once they started off studying the madhab. There's the first step. And then they started to study after that, obviously, more madhabs. And to see the difference of opinions. And they would take that was correct and leave that was not correct.
Like mujtahid.
Yeah. But
The mujtahid.
even the student of knowledge, as we mentioned, who can filter, he can do that. But the point is that all of them took the path of studying the madhab. So it's nothing wrong. This we need to make it clear here. There's nothing wrong with studying a madhab. There's nothing wrong with studying it. What's wrong is the blind following. So we don't want to be the extreme where you say you can't study madhab because it's not the methodology of our scholars. You're going to try to get somewhere without going the proper way. All of the scholars went this way, so why would we choose another path? And that's why you find so many students of knowledge who try to go other than that path. Their knowledge is, it's all mixed up, it's everywhere. But the ones who went the path of the scholars, they studied the madhab, and then after they learned it, they started to study other madhabs as well, look here and there. That was good for them. But we don't want to stay there at the blind following. You'll find people who have been studying 20, 30 years, and they will not leave what their imam said. And this is also very dangerous. So we need to always follow that middle path in all aspects of Islam.
I think education solves some of these problems. I remember that some people told me that who lived in Mecca, that I think 70 years ago or so, they said that at the time of Salatul Dhuhr, you would hear the adhan, and one person from Maliki would make the adhan, and only the Maliki people would pray.
Was it that close to that 70 years ago? Or
Yes,
more?
it's approximately.
Almost
And it
70
was
years.
four
Just 70
madhabs.
years. And you see, nowadays, I still remember the Haram 30 years ago. Nothing like this happened. So in a very short time, this has changed. And this is in Mecca. The most sacred place in the world.
And now
Kaaba.
nobody looks at that. You see the
And
difference
this
today.
changed, yes. And I think the reason that this changed is the spread of correct knowledge. And I think even these 2 episodes that we have done about this topic will affect many people in the world, inshallah, and will make them try to look for, yes. And I like what you said, that when we are asked in our graves about the 3 questions, who is your Lord, what is your religion, and who is the prophet who was sent to you?
Your imam's not in that one?
Yeah, this is exactly what I
It's not in
wanted to
there
know.
somewhere?
So here, there's no question that will be asked, who is your imam, or what's your madhab? Every Muslim should be aware of that. You're not going to be asked about this. These are only the 3 questions that you're going to be asked. So why worry about the issue of an imam now or a madhab now? So I should focus on the Prophet ﷺ here, other than focusing on other.
Abu Mus'ab, if you allow me.
Yes, I do.
What concerns me most is not the fiqh issues regarding to school of thought. So I can understand the difference is there. And I respect people who differ with me. So for example, I see that a woman should cover her face. But if I see someone who follows the other opinion, I'm okay with that because he's following what his conviction applies to him. The biggest problem is with the blind followers of imams of dalala, imams of the wrong path, deviant imams. When you find the masses of the Muslims, and this brings me to Dr. MAMDOUH's point of education, you find educated people PhD holders, doctors, engineers, blindly following a deviant imam. An imam that says, for example, I see the Prophet ﷺ alive 10 times a day. Ya akhi, what is this?
He prays in Mecca, his 5-day prayers.
One of the imams claimed he went on Hajj and came the same night. Ya akhi, what is this?
No. Very recently, somebody said that I talked to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam over the phone. This is very recent.
Even more ridiculously, one was saying that he saw the Prophet ﷺ and he spoke to him and he cried, saying that the people of the country he was in refused to give him a ticket to go back. Wallahi, this aren't
Oh
you?
yeah, I heard.
This is pathetic, yani. And you find people blindly following this person. So whether you put your hand on your chest or you don't put your hand in prayer, this is nothing. This is part of the sunnah. If your prayer is valid. Now, when it comes to aqeedah, when it comes to your belief and claiming to follow a school of thought, or I would not consider this to be
a school of thought.
a school of thought. It's
A school of deviant thought.
Yes.
This is paradise or hellfire. It revolves around this one here.
it.
So this is the key. The aqeedah is the key issue.
So this is why we call the Muslims to purify their aqeedah and to learn their religion, not from Tom, Dick, or Harry, to learn their religion from the Quran, from the Sunnah, and on the understanding of the companions and the righteous scholars. May Allah be pleased with them.
Right.
By this, you are definitely following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ.
These things exist. So it seems that the schools of thought have went beyond the 4 schools of thought, and now we have all kinds of schools of thought, which is not the standard things of the 4 imams. We have all kinds of people, so people are going astray in all directions.
It's not only that. See, they bank on the reputation of the 4 imam. And that is why,
sells, right?
yes, they're deviant. So they can't say that I'm following this school of thought or that. So they claim that I'm following this particular school of thought of the 4 widely accepted schools of thought, and they invest it with their own corrupt ideas. And they say they're deviant ideology.
They say, okay, the usual answer is, but everyone is doing it. You guys are a bunch of extremists.
Who is everyone?
Everyone
We
is
are not doing it.
Is there an answer? Is there an answer for those who say everyone? Like when it comes to numbers, majority versus minority. Do you have anything from the Quran and the Sunnah which addresses the issue of numbers, whether they do make a difference?
Yes.
I mean,
I think one of the verses that I recall from the Quran, لو اتبعت أكثر من في الأرض لأضلوك. If you follow the majority of the people on the earth, they would have deviated you. It's not by the majority.
is the وَإِن تُطِعْ أَكْثَرَ مَنْ فِي
وإن
الْأَرْضِ
تطع أكثر من في الأرض
يضلوك عن سبيل الله.
يضلوك عن سبيل الله. So if you follow the majority of the people on the earth, on the planet, they will deviate you.
So majority
So the
numbers are
majority
worthless.
is not a
The
ruling
Prophet
in
in the
Islam.
famous hadith, when he said, on the day of judgment, there will come a prophet, and pay attention to this, a prophet who has been chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who will have maybe 2 people with him, will have 1 person, and will have nobody with him, a prophet. So in the number games, it's a joke. It doesn't matter about the numbers. It matters about
quality.
The quality.
I remember one of the scholars of Ahl Sunnah was using very simple techniques to convince those people who would say that I am a Shafi'i or I am Hanbali or I am. They used to say that I have a simple question for you. If you answer it, you will know. Was the Prophet ﷺ Shafi'i? Was the Prophet Hanbali? And the answer all the time is no and no and no. So if the Prophet ﷺ is none of these, so why do you want to be a follower of someone? And you have the original one that you can follow very easily.
And if we
the
go back to
Prophet
the early history of Islam, it was something you have to do. If you go astray, if you don't follow one of these imams, it's back to the issue of is it wajib? Do we have to do it? What about the early Muslims before the time of these 4 imams? What about them? Were they all sinners? Were they all astray? With this? Obviously, they didn't have it. And as Sheikh ASSIM mentioned before, there was a lot of schools of thought. We have had they need the same amount of knowledge, but the students they have are the ones who spread it. The point is that, and he found these imams, we want to focus on this. And these are some of the greatest scholars of Islam. We have to have love as Ahl Sunnah, as people of the Sunnah, for Imam Abu Hanifa. We have to have love for Imam Malik, Imam Shafi, and Imam Ahmed. And we have to have hatred for those who hate them, because they were the ones who strove night and day to spread the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad.
And we do have it.
Yeah,
Ahl
we
Sunnah
have
have the love for all the
all of them.
imams.
No difference. We don't. And you'll find people, and it came to the time. Not just you mentioned about the different jama'at, the different groups who used to pray in the haram. Even the marriage. You remember these stories that you were not allowed to marry if you were Hanafi to marry from a Shafi'i. Alhamdulillah, these days, as you say, alhamdulillah, with education and the more authentic knowledge that is spreading, alhamdulillah, these things are starting to doubt in Ummah. This is good. That doesn't mean we want to put away these madhab.
So
we need them. We're not going to get to understand the Quran and Sunnah without them. But also, alhamdulillah, we need to continue on this path we're going with not blind following them or making it a war between ourselves if you follow a different school of thought than me.
Well, I couldn't have said it better. And therefore, that concludes our discussion. I hope, inshallah, there was a benefit. In fact, I feel that there was a benefit, and we addressed the issue pretty objectively by Allah's grace and mercy. And so we thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you, inshallah ta'ala, in the next episode. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Question from Canada. Quite an important question. It may take some time, but it really needs to be answered, because she says it's very confusing nowadays. We have 4 schools of thoughts, 4 different imams. So many people call to this imam, to another imam. She says, where do we draw the line? How do we go about following these 4 schools of thoughts in our everyday practical living as a Muslim?
As a matter of fact, it is on the contrary. It is much clearer now than before that the 4 schools of thoughts are not for different religions, nor even for different sects or parties in Islam undergoes the ruling of this ummah will be divided into 73 sects. Not at all. The 4 schools of thoughts were founded by 4 great scholars, came in different areas and different timings. Of course, the first was Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on him, in Iraq. Then there was Al-Imam Malik, then there was Al-Imam Shafi'i, may Allah have mercy on him, and finally Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal. By the way, for your information, it's not only 4 schools of thought, there are much more than that, very well respected and honorable scholars, besides these 4 imams. It is very interesting to understand that these imams loved one another, respected one another, and some of whom were even disciples and students of another imam, like Al-Imam Shafi'i, studied from since his childhood with Al-Imam Malik. But it doesn't mean that he agreed with him on everything, that he has his own thought based on the references that he collected. He traveled a lot. He went even to study the school of Imam Abu Hanifa. He adopted some of his opinions and he refuted some based on the new evidences that appeared before him. The summary to all of that is that we heard from them saying that إذا صح الحديث فهو مذهبي. What does it mean? If I just tackle this statement, it should be enough to explain to the viewers that these imams are stemming from the same origin and taking their knowledge from the same source and basing their opinions on the same foundation, the Quran and the Sunnah. They said if the hadith is proven to be sound and is attributed properly to the Prophet ﷺ, which hadith? The hadith which I quoted as a reference. If it is proven to be sound, then this is my madhab. What if it is proven to be weak? And Imam so-and-so's hadith is proven to be right, then my madhab is his madhab. So they do not have independent religions. I see some people are so prejudiced when it comes to the 4 schools of thoughts. And he says, I'm following this madhab and I will never change it. And if any other opinion, he will not take it. No. For average Muslims, for the common folk who are not professional nor specialized in studying fiqh, because these schools of thoughts are with regards to the fiqh, the rules and regulations, the legislations, do and do not do, haram and halal, and so on. If you're not a scholar, nor a researcher, nor a seeker of knowledge, then just follow your local imam. And the local imam is a higher level, understands that we do not follow blindly. For instance, I will give you one example. Even though the opinion of Al-Jumhur, and it's been a while that we've been discussing in this program, the meaning of Al-Jumhur, the vast majority, which is not necessarily every time the same scholars, but Al-Jumhur, if the vast majority of the scholars agree to a certain opinion, and there is a little bit of other scholars who oppose that, then the majority we call them Al-Jumhur, the vast majority. Even though the vast majority have agreed that there is no zakah on jewelry, which is prepared for adornment that a woman may wear, Al-Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on him, opposed that. And he said no. He had another hadith. He based his opinion on a hadith. He said no, there is the zakah due annually, every single year, on the woman's jewelry, whether she wears them or not, whether she using them as means of adornments or not. So we say in this program that we adopt the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa and we disregard the opinion of Al-Jumhur with disregard. But not every single time we adopt the opinion of Imam Abu Hanifa. It is very interesting to understand. I started my life studying in the study of fiqh in Al-Azhar, where I began by studying fiqh 7 consecutive years. I studied al-fiqh al-Hanafi. Then my other brothers who were enrolled in Al-Azhar as well, each one was studying a different madhab, Shafi'i for instance. So if it happens and we come together in the evening to eat dinner.
It must have been a heated dinner, that.
Oh my God. You should really be there to see the situation. A fight will break up between us if we ever discuss any mas'ala. Why? Because we're still students. We don't understand. I was only studying Hanafi, so I don't believe in any other madhab but this. And I was totally sold that. I believed in everything was said in this madhab. Then later on, when we joined the college, we had to study comparative fiqh, the different schools of thoughts, Shafi'i, or Hanafi, or Maliki, and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, with regards to the same mas'ala, the same case, the same question. Then you come to enlarge your understanding and widen your mind, and understand that this is religion, this is deen, to be taken from the Quran and from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, not from any other person. These scholars base their views on the available references that they collected. And they made ijtihad. Ijtihad is a possible and permissible effort to be exerted in finding a solution or an answer for a mas'ala that doesn't have an immediate or a shortcut or a straightforward answer due to lack of evidence or references in this case. And Nabi ﷺ said, for such mujtahid, who's a great true scholar, that has to achieve certain conditions so that to be considered as a mujtahid. A true scholar who have memorized the entire Quran and several thousand hadith, authentic hadith, and understands the difference between the sound hadith and the weak hadith, the different categories of hadith, masters the aqidah, and most importantly, master the different categories of the Arabic language. Not just understood it, but he mastered it. Let's take this phone call first and we'll resume.
Jazakallah khair. Okay.
That you will forget to resume the answer to the question of the 4 schools of thoughts.
Okay, Karen, finish this question
Inshallah, we'll finish this first, then inshallah we'll tackle the issue of the month of Ramadan. So I requested from one of my dear friends, Dr. HAKEEM, to present a program concerning the evolution of fiqh in order to explain to the viewers that these schools of thoughts are not different religions or even different sects. This is not Catholic and Protestant. No, this is the same deen, the same madhab, the same manhaj, the same mainstream of the ummah. So when it comes to concluding the ahkam, if you are a seeker of knowledge, you will base your opinion on the sound reference, regardless who adopted this opinion, even if he's not my imam. And you will get to understand this after you study thoroughly the different schools of thoughts. And if you are an ordinary person, that's not your role to pick and choose and say, I think I prefer this, or I like that. No, it's not up to you then. Then you rely on the view of your local sheikh who studied the different schools of thoughts and understood it. I also wanted to remind you, brothers and sisters, that there were other scholars besides the 4 great imams, such as Al-Layth ibn Sa'd, such as the students of Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah mercy on him, Zufar wa Muhammad wa Abu Yusuf and Muhammad ibn al-Hasan, such as Imam al-Hasan al-Basri, and so many others that came before or even after them. But these are the 4 most imams. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on him, is a great example of concluding the hukm after studying all different schools of thoughts in his series of al-Fatawa. It is an amazing collection where you find an answer for one mas'ala. He presents the different views. Imam Abu Hanifa said so and so, and Imam al-Shafi'i said so and so. He presents the different opinions, then he concludes the right opinion based on the sound reference. So if you're not a scholar, it would be sufficient to ask to get a fatwa from a program like this, or consider your local imam or true seekers of knowledge. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide all of us to what's best.
Jazakallah khair. Okay.